So, welcome everyone. My name is Marshall. I am the facilitator of the Experience More Tour. For those of you who are new to the network, I'm on almost all of the calls and I get to chat with industry professionals and really kind of geek out on products containing GORE-TEX technology. And so tonight's very special, of course, because we're here with Aaron Long with Arc'teryx, which is a long-term partner of GORE-TEX. And the way they utilize our laminate packages is just absolutely fascinating and fun to explore. And so we've invited Aaron, the wholesale trainer at Arc'teryx, to join us this evening and shed some light on these products. And so we're going to both be chatting a little bit about some of the technology. And again, if you have questions, get into there and ask them. So with that, Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about well, first of all, where are you calling in from, just so the audience knows?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Marshall. I'm calling in from Portland, Oregon. And yeah, obviously I work with Arc'teryx. I've been with Arc'teryx for 10 years. And then I've worked at REI for 3 or 4 years before that. I grew up, when I was younger, I worked at Eastern Mountain Sports, worked in a climbing gym. So I've spent most of my life working in the outdoor industry. Absolutely love it. I love, the outdoor scene, skiing, climbing, running, all that kind of stuff. And then just love sharing all the knowledge and all the stuff that I've learned. Marshall and I have been working together for at least 6 years. I've lost count of how many of these
More
clinics
than that,
we've
I think.
done.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's like, but this is one of my favorite clinic series of the year. I really look forward to these. So thank you so much for joining this call. I really hope you get some good takeaways and learn some knowledge points that you can share with your customers, and or just some stuff that you're not going to get in like an Intel sheet or a brand made video. Like, we're going to be more conversational and try to get into some of the weeds and the details for you.
Yeah, that's the hope, and let's do it. So, Aaron, let me just begin by kind of throwing you a question here. The Beta SL, which is we're here to talk about tonight, belongs in the Beta family at Arc'teryx. And so, can you give us a little insight into how Arc'teryx views the Beta family? Where does it fit into the overall scheme of the Arc'teryx, assortment?
Yeah, absolutely. We have like two, I would say, major families in GORE-TEX shells. The first one was the Alpha jackets, or the Alpha family. Think alpine climbing, mountaineering, ice climbing. It is fully featured and decked out for the needs of an alpinist. So whether it's long sleeves and articulated arms, chest pockets, helmet and climbing harness compatibility, all of it's directed towards alpinism. When you talk into the Beta family, this is more of a generalist, do-it-all, Goldilocks style family, where you can do all activities and all kind of sports that you'd like to do outdoors. The Beta family is huge family now. We've got several jackets within the lineup, and it goes from just a very generalist rain jacket in the Beta all the way up to a Beta AR, or some seasons a Beta SV. And when you get those product modifiers, they get either more durable or lighter weight, or more features or less features. But the Beta jackets are really summed up in like just the do-it-all, most versatile hard shells from Arc'teryx.
Yeah, so there's these great do-it-alls, right? And there's these sort of breakdowns within the categories that you're starting to talk about, which is like the SV, right? The AR and the SL. So what does the SL, let's kind of zoom in a little further to the SL. What is the SL, and what does that suffix mean? And really, how does that express itself in the Beta family?
So SL stands for super light. And that's pretty self-explanatory, but the Beta SL is our lightest weight Beta jacket. And, we're really cutting down all the features, making sure the fabric is as light as weight as possible. So that the jacket is as light as possible. With the Beta SL, this current version of it is still fully featured. We'll get into the features here in a few slides, but when you talk SL, it's super light. When you're saying AR, the Beta ARs are probably our most popular, or for years it's been our most popular Beta jacket, and that stands for all around. So those product modifiers just help direct the customer or the guest or the salesperson towards like what the major features, the benefits, or kind of the weight durability classifications would be. And there's a Beta jacket for everybody. And if you're not sure what jacket to get from Arc'teryx and you want a hard shell or a GORE-TEX jacket, you can look at the Beta family, and then you can take those product modifiers to be like, I want the lightest weight one possible, or I want the most durable one, or I want the one with the most pockets. And those product modifiers help direct you.
So we're into SL then, and that means super light, right? So let's take a look at this rig here and just explore it. It doesn't mean it's not fully featured, right? This is interesting that this is the super light, but it still has features like fit zip. So give us the tour here of what the Beta SL, sort of who it's intended for. Let's begin there, and then let's start to parse it up a bit.
Taken off of our webpage, it's a light packable all mountain Gore-Tex EPE shell with an extensive feature set. So what does that mean? We're using, extremely lightweight fabrics and materials, but we are kitting it out with all the features. When you back up in our Beta jacket, this is more of a generalist raincoat. It is, uses a heavier face fabric. It's got a more relaxed fit, but it doesn't have a helmet compatible hood and it doesn't have pit zips. So, the key takeaways I'd say with the Beta SL, it's got that articulated patterning that Arc'teryx is known for. It's got the two hand pockets and a chest pocket. It has pit zips and a storm hood, and that storm hood is helmet compatible. So those two things, like a helmet compatible hood and underarm zippers, those are like, for some customers, those are like, hey, I need to have those. And the SL gives that opportunity for the customer. As you can see, they're really, really lightweight jackets. So you got 10.5 ounces for the ladies, and then 12 ounces for the men. And they go we have extended size ranges. So it goes from an extra small to a double extra large in men's, and then it goes all the way down to a double extra small in the ladies, and then a double extra large in the women's jacket as well. It's a fitted fit or an athletic fit. So, designed to be more of a technical jacket than what the Beta jacket is. So you can utilize this for just about any activity that you'd want to. If you need to use it for a few days of ski touring, or you're climbing Mount Rainier or Mount Hood up here in Oregon, like this would be a great jacket to have if you just needed one, because then you could use it for hiking, backpacking, travel, you name it.
Yeah, getting into a lot of sort of full features there, like you explored, right? But still so light. You can roll it into its hood, it disappears. You got it with you when you need it, which is pretty attractive with this garment. And
Yeah, take
we're
it
going to see
anywhere.
they just
No
continue
reason
to
to leave
lighten
it
this thing
behind.
up. So let's get into some of the features, right? Can you explain what articulation means for Arc'teryx? What's the evolution and the approach of creating articulation into these garments?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Arc'teryx is known for is like great fitting jackets. Like you put it on and it's form fitting. It's not a lot of extra bagginess. It's loose, but you can move in it. You can move your arms up. You can, crouch over, bend down. That is design, aesthetic or design ethos. And when we're talking about that articulated patterning, it's body mapping. It's taking the human form and it's making sure that, the patterning allows the human body to move. And so, you look at that sleeve and it's bent. If you were to hang it on the hanger, there's an angle to it. It has a visible elbow. It's not just a tube sock. It's not just like a gingerbread man. It is a full jacket that has form and featured and is featured around a human body. So you can move quickly and easily with it.
Yeah, so that kind of articulation, right, building that in, and it's been really interesting to watch that through the years and the way that's evolved, and the way Arc'teryx has approached that, right, from the early days in the early aughts by using darting in places in the sleeves, right, cutting the fabric, sewing it back together, putting a little piece of seam tape, to now like more curved seams, and really just it's interesting that they've been able to just kind of rethink the whole thing, and every year it just tends
Yeah.
to get lighter and more articulated. It's really
And
cool.
it is really cool. And the best way to see the articulation and see the patterning is actually by turning this jacket inside out. It shows you all of the different like tight angles and the tiny seam taping, the micro seam allowances, the seam junctures in the hood and the elbow. And you really see like the details when you turn the jacket inside out.
Yeah, yeah, please do, everybody. I definitely suggest that's the best thing to ever do with a jacket when you first get a kind of exploring a jacket for the first time, is you can look at it lets you see the seaming, it lets you see the construction, maybe the types of seam tape being used in that garment. And it's really neat to see that, right? Incidentally, seam tape doesn't breathe, right? So there's a motivation to use narrower seam tape and use less of it, meaning less sewing. And that's where that real 3D creativity comes in that Arc'teryx is applying to this, right? So that in
Right.
that design world, it's just fascinating to see that. Now you can use as much seam tape as you want. From Gore's perspective, it'll still be waterproof, but I think from a user's endpoint, it's just really nice to have less.
Yeah, and then when you get into the pockets, there's two hand pockets that are high enough up where they're not in the way of a climbing harness or a backpack hip belt. They're laminated and they are waterproof or watertight zippers. There's an internal zippered pocket in the chest. That's great for electronics or valuables that need to absolutely stay dry. And then those same watertight zippers are featured in the underarms or the pit zippers. And so pit zippers, obviously, that opens up the whole jacket, allows for maximum breathability so that when you're huffing and puffing and working hard, climbing uphill, you can open the jacket up and really maximize the breathability. And then you have that helmet compatible hood. That's a huge selling point for a lot of folks. It fits over a climbing helmet, fits over some ski touring helmets, even a bicycle helmet. If you really need to get out of the elements, you can pop that over and get that full coverage without impeding the visibility. So the way that it's articulated along with that that crown drawstring, as well as the drawstrings on the neckline, that allows the jacket to really move as your head moves and doesn't get in your way. So you're looking at the inside of your hood when you're turning your head over.
Do you mind, Aaron, if I geek out real quick on pit zips? Because
Oh, please do, yeah.
let's do it. Right, pit zips do allow for that quick heat dump. Right, they can switch from evaporative heat loss of your body to convective heat loss, allowing wind to come in there and pull heat away from you. So we got to, in order to put them in, of course, they have to be applied. And so that's a zone where there's glue being used. And again, glue doesn't breathe. And so Arc'teryx has really rethought the way pit zips can be applied and putting them in this very minimalist manner. It's really sort of a fascinating application of their zipper technology. So on the left, you can see sort of typical industry way, right? They might be between two panels of fabric. You would put in the pit zip, and then that needs to be sewn in and then seam taped in and then seam tape blocked around it. And you can imagine that adds bulk to the underarm, right? Maybe even makes the zipper a little harder to operate. And that creates less breathability in that zone when the zipper is closed.
Yeah. And you have a
would
whole
want the most
patch of fabric
breathability,
that's not
right?
breathability. Yeah,
And
exactly.
so Arc has done what you see on the right. And Aaron, can you take us through some of the what you notice when you look at this internal part of this pit zip?
Yeah, I mean, there's three stories when I look at this picture. You've got the zipper technology, you've got our obsession with glues or lamination, and then you've got the seam taping. And Arc'teryx has always pioneered all three of those technologies. So our seam taping, like Marshall alluded to, we always try to use the smallest micro seam possible and the smallest seam taping that we're allowed to use that makes the jacket still durable, just to make it more breathable, more supple, lighter weight. You can see the zipper on the left has that whole seam taping around the zipper, where ours is laminated directly onto the material. The other cool thing, you can see the zipper on the left has a garage, like a garage on the end of the zipper pull. I'm sure it has a zipper garage on the front face of the jacket as well, where ours does not have a zipper garage. The reason we do not need one is because we've developed what we call the RS zipper slider. That it's a recessed zipper. So originally when we were designing it, they just took a Dremel tool, cut away a little bit of the zipper, and that allowed the zipper to come all the way up flush to the end. So when you look at one of our jackets, they pull right up tight to it, and then we just glue it down and throw some lamination in that die cut patch there for added durability on that zipper pull. But that cuts down a significant amount of grams, and aids in the breathability.
It's a masterful application, and just again turn those jackets inside out and take a look, right? It's pretty cool to see what can be included in a garment like that, saving weight, optimizing breathability, but still including the pit zip for that maximum heat dump. So these are just some of the features that we run through. We could go through a few more, but I do want to kind of get in maybe to some of the what's really new in this garment as well. Aaron, I know that when it comes to the fabrics, Arc'teryx has sort of produced some pretty cool stuff around the fabrics. And so can you introduce us a little bit about what we're about to look at?
Yeah, I mean, both of our companies, like it's not a partnership, it's a relationship. We work together very closely to develop kind of the best in class fabric packages for the need. And we're diving into the fabric package, which is EPE or GORE-TEX with EPE. EPE just refers to the membrane. As we're going to see, there's a lot more to it than just the membrane. That is a cool story or a cool selling point. And I'm super stoked about this. The environmental footprint is way, way smaller than the previous generation of GORE-TEX. The durability, the breathability, and the waterproofness is all still there. And this is really pushing us into like the new era of what waterproof fabric technology is. And so I'd like to just share a quick brand video. It's maybe 3 minutes long, and it's going to give you kind of the breakdown of everything from our brand lens. And then Marshall and I are going to go dissect every talking point and then really get into the weeds, and we'll be able to answer questions at that point.
We have a new material platform called GORE-TEX EPE. It's lighter weight, more durable, and fully PFAS free, which is a massive win. This is just such an exciting update. We're going to see all of our hard shells be updated to this new EPE platform in 2025. Here to get into the weeds with me is Ryder Pingree, and he's here to tell us everything we need to know.
To start, let's talk about what PFAS is. PFAS stands for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They are also known as forever chemicals. They've been around since the 1950s, started using them for all kinds of things, nonstick pans, food packaging, anything that's stain resistant. We want to get rid of them.
Because it doesn't break down in the environment.
Correct.
Okay, well that sounds like an important update to me.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what is EPE?
EPE stands for expanded polyethylene, which is the new polymer that GORE is using as the kind of base skeleton of their waterproof breathable membrane that allows us all to be PFAS free. What we're really talking about is a wholesale change to all of the different materials that we've used to make a GORE-TEX laminate over the years.
I know that the removal of PFAS is one really exciting component, but I believe there's some other really interesting sustainability updates. Can you tell us what those are?
So if you look at a 3-layer jacket like this one, it's comprised of a face textile, the membrane or film, and a backer, as well as a coating, which is the DWR. The DWR went from fluorinated chemistry to now FC0. Our face textiles went from virgin nylon to recycled content. The membrane changes from EPTFE, fluorinated, to EPE, and then the backers themselves also change to recycled content, and some of them as well dope dyed, a waterless dyeing process. So all of this comes together to make the most sustainable version of GORE-TEX that has ever been made. Our carbon footprint on a like for like, old versus new, is roughly 35% less.
Can you tell us a bit about what we've done in terms of testing and what the results are showing us?
We have done over 10,000 hours of testing, as well as tons of lab testing that have shown no statistical difference in durability of waterproof, so we feel really confident in the type of product that we're putting out here. One thing that they may notice is that the jacket will wet out a little bit sooner than it did before. What we can do though is recommend and encourage you to wash and dry the jacket. When it does wet out, that just means that the water droplets are sitting inside the little spaces of your face textile, but the membrane is there behind that, right? And that is fully waterproof, so you will not be getting wet.
Ryder, what are the main takeaways?
We are going to have a fully PFAS-free product line by the end of 2025. You're still going to have the most durable, waterproof, windproof, breathable garment that you can get, and take care of your jacket. Wash and dry it. Keep that DWR in great condition as you go out.
Awesome. I can't wait to get one.
Me too.
Yeah, I love that video. I think they did a great job with just 3 minutes, kind of giving you the elevator pitch on everything. I mean, I think the takeaway for me, outside of having non-fluorinated chemistry, you have a 35% reduction in the carbon footprint. And that's a huge number on a like per like on the jacket. And the no reduction in kind of performance attributes, the DWR being maybe the one sacrifice. I don't personally see it as a sacrifice, and Marshall and I are going to really get into the weeds on DWR. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. If there's any questions that pop up from that video or the next few slides, please keep them coming.
No, a great video. And what I really like what Ryder references is the most sustainable GORE-TEX laminate to date. And so I want to kind of run through from the inside out a bit, kind of what Ryder was referencing in that video, and give you a little more subtext and comprehension around some of these materials. So let's begin here with the backer. Right? The backer is by far my favorite part of the laminate package. I think it's just fascinating what backers do for comfort, for wicking, for construction techniques. for overall aesthetic, body, hand. There's so many attributes that the backer adds to it.
Yeah.
So about 10 years ago or so, we developed this C-knit backer. So stands for circular knit. This is a proprietary backer technology that Gore developed and that we make. The idea was to make something that's very open. So in this microscope picture, you can see the membrane through the C-knit. So the black part is the C-knit circular knit backer. Because it's so open, it doesn't inhibit the breathability. It doesn't add resistance to evaporative transport. So this backer is really primed that way, right? And in fact, it works so well, it adds such much comfort. Like ARC even switched away from Packlight, which was very extremely breathable, to C-knit backed garments exclusively once this came on market.
Yeah, and we did that, Marshall. We walked away from Packlight for a couple of reasons, but C-knit, like you said, I mean, it allows for a really, really lightweight fabric package. I mean, with our Norvan jacket, I believe that's on like a 6 denier. And so when you pair that with a 10 denier material, you can get a full Gore-Tex jacket that's seam sealed and taped and 3-layer for I think like 6.5 ounces, which is absolutely incredibly lightweight. The big plus side is the added durability that a 3-layer package gives you over a 2-layer, and then the better longevity. It's got better longevity because it's more oleophobic with having that backer there, and it's repairable, which is a huge thing that we want to do. Is we want to make jackets that can be fixed when they inevitably have some damage happen to them. You know, our jackets are made for the top of the mountain or for charging hard, and as strong as you make a jacket, sometimes things are going to get worn out. There's breaking points in everything that we make, and if we can repair it, and if we can make sure that life cycle is more circular, like that's the way that we want to be designing and building jackets.
Yeah, and part of that backer's job is to actually allow an adherence of seam tape, allow adherence of patches, or if you do need to cut out a section because it got ripped, you can then put a new section in and adhere to these backers. If you look closely, you can see a glue dot in the upper left of this. That's wrapping around the C-knit, right? So that's holding it to the membrane. And then now you can place other materials on top of that and have that glue splay and wrap around the C-knit to allow for patching and repairability. So C-knit adds, even that on its own is a sort of sustainability aspect of C-knit that allow for that repairability world. But what brings us into C-knit 2, right, which is where we are now, is that use of recycled nylon. And so the nylons in there are all being sourced from recycled sources using the global recycled standard, right? So we're very happy that we were able to find enough of a supply chain to make C-knit with recycled nylon. And that was no easy feat to be able to do that. In addition, right, to the recycled component, it is solution dyed, meaning that it is literally what solution dyed means is there's a solution of like polyamide pellets, right? And those are normally white, essentially clear white. And those get extruded into yarns. And then after that, it gets woven and then it gets dyed, right? Using a lot of water to turn that white into whatever color, in this case, sort of this dark gray. Solution dye means we actually will add gray color pellets into the solution before it's extruded into the yarns, which means that it doesn't take any water to add color to the nylon. Now, this works really well for colors where we're going to have to make a lot of it. All C-knit's the same color. Therefore, this just lends itself brilliantly to being solution dyed. So really cool to save on water, save on CO2 in this process.
You might also hear this referred to as dope dyed. That's what we call it, is dope dyed. The dope is actually the pellets of nylon or the pellets of polyester before they get extruded to into the fabric or the strand. So solution dyed, dope dyed is the same concept.
Yeah. All right, enough about backer, although I would love to keep going, but let's get into the EPE membrane, right? So this is another new part. So this is the new polyethylene membrane. Again, about 10, 12 years ago, Gore saw that, we needed to move away from PFAS. We knew it was going to be regulated away. We also knew that we could do better, right? We don't need these forever chemicals out there in the world. And so we started tinkering with lots of different membrane platforms, polyurethane, polyethylene, right? There's all these different ones that we played with, but we landed on polyethylene because we were able to manipulate it into kind of what you can see here, which is a very distinct pore size. So we can allow for that waterproof and that breathability, but also very, very strong from a chemical inertness standpoint, as well as like a flex standpoint. And in fact, one of these cool things that happened is we went back to the drawing board to create this new membrane. We came up with something slightly better than what we had before. meaning that this actually has a little bit more strength to it. And because it's a slightly stronger film, we can actually make it a little bit thinner and still have the performance characteristics that we had before of waterproof, windproof, breathable, and durable all together. So because it's thinner, right, it makes the garment slightly lighter. And Aaron was just telling me it makes about 15 grams lighter over the whole garment by removing that amount of film. It also makes for a slightly more supple hand, a nicer body to the fabric. And because it uses less material overall, it's a reduced chemical footprint and a reduced carbon footprint in the membrane. So we're really proud about what we came up with, and everything is going to transition to EPE as a fall 25. Majority of products are transitioning this fall. Pro is coming next year, and everything will be moving into EPE. Now, I saw a question in the chat, is all EPE the same, right? In the past, we were able to manipulate EPTFE into slightly different versions of membrane and apply that. And the answer is actually we've landed on a single material platform for EPE. So all EPE is the same. What really changes the characteristics of it are the face fabrics, the backers, and how we laminate that all together.
Yeah,
so
I love that. I think
all
that's
EPEs
great.
will be the same.
It makes it so much easier to sell and make it better to make it, or easier for a buy-in purchase. When you talk about durability, breathability, waterproofness, you almost have a Venn diagram. And as long as they fit into like the human perception of what great, durability, breathability, waterproofness is, the rest of the fabric package can be manipulated. And I just think it's going to make it easier for us to sell this product and for a buyer to make a decision. That's my take on it.
Yeah, it's very cool. And when we put the layer cake together and we test it, right, it has the same waterproof, windproof, breathability specs that we had required that a similar product would have had before. And so it tests out the same. And so we can kind of swap it out now into products that had EPTFE. So it is really exciting advancement here in just the membrane part of that. So I want to bump out again to the face fabrics. This is where things get interesting, and from that sort of overall consumer perception of what this fabric is and how it feels. So in our EPE laminates, we are committed to using recycled face fabrics. And so recycled nylon, in this case, this is a nylon face fabric. Nylons, again, tend to be slightly more durable than polyesters. And that recycled nylon is difficult to source, right? And that's why it's been a little slow to have recycled nylon everywhere. But we've been able to incorporate that into these laminates. And then also with some solution dyed color options, depending on the colors that you choose. So now what's interesting is now we can go even further, right? Okay, so those are the basics. In the Beta SL, the face fabric that's been selected is a 40D by 70D. So 40 denier by 70 denier GORE-TEX face fabric, or sorry, not GORE-TEX, but a nylon face fabric. So we were like, okay, 40 by 70, that's kind of unique. So Aaron and I teed up a call with Christy Haywood, our application engineer at GORE-TEX, and asked her, well, can you tell us a little bit about 40 by 70? Why does it exist and how did it come to be? Aaron, what did you kind of learn on that call with Christy?
Yeah, I mean, this was like right off the bat, like Marshall and I noticed it, because usually we see like an even fabric technology where it's like 40 by 40 or 80 by 80. And then Arc'teryx will use like a hybrid construction where we maybe use the 80D on the shoulders and on the outside of the arms, and then the bodies through the 40. Well, EPE is such a lighter weight thin membrane that when we tested this jacket with just the 40 by 40, our designers and our product team came back and they were like, this doesn't feel like an Arc'teryx jacket. This doesn't feel durable enough. Like it feels too lightweight. It feels like not,
they wanted more body in the fabric.
They wanted more body, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they landed on this like 40 by 70. So it's a great compromise. That 40, there's a warp strand and a weft strand, and then they interlock. And so one of those is a 40D, the other strand is a 80D, and they use that jacket through the entirety of the garment. And it increases the durability, increases the durability and the abrasion resistance. And there's no sacrifice to weight on it because of that lighter weight membrane. So pretty cool. It's really rare that we see that kind of fabric, but that's what the Beta SL incorporates.
And this truly was a cooperative process because Arc'teryx had actually sourced this face fabric from a mill in Taiwan called Li Ping. and they brought it to us and said, we're really interested in utilizing this as we think this might lend an interesting hand to the overall fabric. And so Christy's job was to commercialize that, laminate it to EPE, get the backer on there, put it all together, figure out how to get DWR onto this, have seam tape that matches up to it. And she was able to achieve that. And in fact, through all of our testing, we discovered that this 40 by 70 is so durable. We're actually going to be using it on our Pro fabrics next year as well when we add that woven backer in. So it lives up to the Pro specs as a face fabric. It's a really cool fabric. And if you've touched the Beta Cell, you're like, well, that's really light, but don't worry, it's still bulletproof. It's pretty cool stuff. So that's the layer cake, right? We got a backer, we got a membrane, we have a woven face fabric. GORE-TEX will laminate all that together to create that laminate package, which can then be applied into the garment. And so we'll call that the cake, but there's this other layer, which is, I like to call this the icing on the cake. And this got updated as well. And so that is the DWR layer. This is a layer applied by GORE-TEX in the GORE-TEX factory using formulations and applications that we've developed. So this is a very unique to GORE-TEX, the DWR applications on here. So DWR is there to have the water, well, it's there for several reasons, right? And we'll get into that. But the new DWR is non-fluorinated, right? As we've switched from being able to use fluorinated chemistries, they're excellent. They stick to everything. They're very robust. We've had to move away from that to PFAS free. And so the DWRs are no exception to that. And so this was a particularly large challenge to make a DWR that's going to function without PFAS. And we'll kind of get into some of the details of how we did that in a second. But what we do know is that PFAS-free DWRs are less oleophobic, or they are, again, more susceptible to oil contamination. Now, where does oil come from? It comes from our fingers. It comes from our sandwiches. It comes from just the atmosphere. And so those will contaminate these DWRs a little bit faster. But as you see, that's okay. You can still deal with that through proper care. And what we really needed to develop here was something that could be washed and dried and be very sort of permanently, permanent's the wrong word, but very robustly adhered to the face fabric. Now, when we think about DWRs, right, there's different kind of performance characteristics of DWRs and different variables in the system that we have to look at. One is formulation, right? And so we are, like mad scientists, balancing the formulation to make sure it is going to be optimized for water beading, say, or for robustness and adherence to the fabric. And we have to balance this. Then we look at how do we apply it. It is interesting, right? We might have a formulation, but we need to change the application process for a 40D versus a 40 by 70 because it will adhere differently to that fabric. So we need to look at the application process. In fact, it'll even change when the color changes. A black fabric will adhere differently than like a light colored fabric just based on the dyes. It is fascinating and something that has to be adjusted for every single variation. And so we got to look at that as well. And then of course, I sort of referenced different textile types will take DWRs differently. Some will take them a little bit better, right? A smoother, flatter textile is going to take a DWR better than something that has a lot of texture and feel to it. And so those are all things that we have to balance in the system. And we are looking very closely at that. Now, what do we consider performance in DWR, right? There is the sort of performance characteristics that you're used to, right? Water beating up and rolling off so that we don't get that clammy, wet feeling from our garment. Remember, there's still a membrane in the garment no matter what. And when we test all these garments, right, Aaron, we actually strip the DWRs. So we test them without DWRs to make sure they can perform that way. And then we can add the DWRs on to just increase and boost the performance. And so beading is one of those performance characteristics. Another one, though, is when you do get wet out, how much gets into the fibers. And so a properly applied DWR can prevent that from happening. And so we can have low water pickup even in wet out situations. And then how durable is it? How many wash dry cycles can it take before it starts to disappear off the face fabric, right? Clearly, we want to extend that so that all you have to do is wash and dry your jacket. You don't have to reapply DWR. And then, the ability to reactivate it when it stops beating up from contamination. Can you do that using wash and heat? So these are all performance variables that we are going to play with. And the fact is that like we're pretty proud of what we've come up with at Gore. I do think we have the industry gold standard at this point in DWRs in the PFAS-free DWRs, of which all will soon be PFAS-free. And so for instance, one of the performance characteristics is the stickiness of the DWR to the fabric, right? And so we wanted to test and develop a test to make sure that what we're developing is going to maintain over many wash-dry cycles. This is the Bundesmann test, where we sprinkle water onto a piece of fabric at 45 degrees for a duration of time. And then we actually will grade it from 5 to 1, 5 being great beating up, 1 being full wet out. And then what we do is we do a wash-dry cycle, a standardized wash-dry cycle, do it again, wash dry, do it again, right? And you can see our results here on the right from the DWRs that we're applying. They start at a 5. After about 3 wash dry cycles, they drop to a 4.5. And then after 15, they're still at a 4. And a 4 is very acceptable for field usage. So 15 wash dry cycles is where we stopped the test. And it does keep going, but this is really, something that is a high performance characteristics, because you're about to learn, we're going to ask customers to wash and dry these jackets frequently. So this is something that's really important to pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like key takeaway is, the new DWR is more prone to contamination or more prone to oil and sweat and dirt, but it lasts really long, and the durability is exceptional on it. And so you have to reapply the DWR less. You just have to wash it more frequently, which is great. Everybody likes wearing clean clothes. I like wearing clean underwear. The jacket should be no difference.
I completely agree, right? And we're going to get into this next. And I just want to reiterate what we've been talking about, is that we make this layer package, right? There's so many performance characteristics of that, right? Waterproof, windproof, breathability, ruggedness, hand, body, and all that. Another performance characteristic is this aesthetic performance characteristic of ease of care. And we purposefully engineer ease of care into the laminate packages so that it is very easy for a customer to take care of it. If your jacket was hard to wash and dry, you'd be babying your jacket out in the field, and that would not be really a high performance jacket, because you'd have to be taking, I don't know, don't touch anything, right? You don't have to worry about that in the field because you can wash it and dry it frequently.
Totally. Ben, would you mind throwing that video on, and let's just show people how easy it is to wash their jackets?
Wash your GORE-TEX when it looks or feels dirty or stops beading water, about every 6 to 12 hard wears. Dale has done this at least 1,000 times. Just follow these simple steps. Prep your garment so it's in a tight package when you put it in the machine. Leave pocket zips open. Check for all those sabotaging sneaky Kleenex, but do all the other zips up. Release tension on the elastic draw cords, and loosen and secure the cuff Velcro. This is our preference, but it's not the only thing you can use. Ideally, choose a GORE-TEX specific detergent. Stay clear of any weird laundering frills. No fabric softener, no fragrance, no whitener, no colorants. Wash on medium heat, regular cycle. Rinse twice to clear all soap from the fabric. Soap is as bad as dirt and grease for hindering technical performance. Dry on medium heat for roughly 40 to 50 minutes. This will also reactivate the DWR. If the DWR coating is still intact and water comes off your garment in beads, that should stand up for another half dozen hard wears. Take care of your gear so it can take care of you. Recare, make it last.
Yeah, great video, right? Super simple. Wash it, dry it. And those steps are really important.
Just laundry day. There's no magic treatment to it. It's just like doing your laundry, like you'd wash your bed sheets, like you'd wash your underwear. We'll wash it regularly. If you notice it's not beading up, that's time to wash it and dry it. If you're washing it and drying it, I'd say probably 10 to 20 times. After that, that's probably time to reapply that DWR. As Marshall showed that graph, and it was a little hard to point out, but they tested it up to 15 washes. That's the odd number. Arc'teryx says probably 10 to 20 times, so 15 is right down the middle of that. That's how many times you can wash it and dry it without having to reapply that DWR. And then eventually you will have to spray some DWR on it or wash it in, pop it in the dryer as well.
Yeah, Eric, can we do the math on that real quick? Because it is 15 times is a lot, actually, right? So
it's way more than what I was used to.
let's say you're a 20-day-a-year skier, right? And that means you got to wash it every 6 to 8 times, right? So that means you're maybe washing it 3 times, maybe 4 times per season. So 4 times into 15, that's about 4. So that's 4 years of wash dry cycles before
if
you
you're only using the
reapply
jacket for ski
DWR.
season. Yeah.
Yeah, sure,
And
right?
it's like,
So
yeah, and it's conditional. Like it depends on like your activities, your sweat. You know, if did it get sunscreen all over it? Did it get contaminated by like fire or you know, it's by the case. But like Marshall's point, like it's a long time before you have to reapply the DWR. But it's very much like case by case. You're gonna notice that it needs to be cleaned when it's wetting out. And once it's wetting out, that's not a failure point. That's a point of doing laundry. Like it's not a bad thing. It's just time to wash your jacket. So
when my t-shirts get stinky, I wash them, right? Yep. Same thing when your jacket is wetting out, it's time to wash it. And that's just a clear indication. And so we really need your help educating customers on this. As Carolyn, you're saying, like customers don't get it and they don't, right? And so we have to help them in the way by saying, okay, please, you're going to need to go home and wash this garment.
Like, you know, this old school thought not washing it often saves the product. That's actually the opposite. Our number one reason for seeing warranty returns across all product categories is because the garment is dirty, because people aren't washing their clothes. Not only is that gross, it's just like, it shows you that like product gets destroyed. Your clothing, if you never washed your t-shirt, if you never washed your, you know, whatever pants you were wearing, like they would not be looking very fresh, you know? So it's okay to wash it. We've tested over and over again. And let's see, I see another question from Dylan. This is a great question. Are front loader washers preferred to top loaders like many other products, or does it not matter? I personally, I live in an apartment complex, so there's a shared unit, washer and dryer. It is a top loader. It is old. It's not that great. I've used it for over 10 years and it works great. I'm not afraid of washing my hard shells in a top loader. I would be afraid of washing a down garment in a top loader because that agitator helps to like kind of rip and pull at those seams. And
much lighter fabrics in a down coat.
Yeah, and then the jacket is just a lighter weight construction. So if it's got down in it and it's a hard shell, you will probably want to use a garment bag to protect it if you have a top loader, if you don't have access to a front loader. You know, sometimes every once in a while, I'll wash my sleeping bag over at a laundromat and maybe I'll grab like a down jacket and toss it in there when it's time to do sleeping bags. Otherwise, I just wash it, you know, by itself or with my other tech gear. I don't wash it with all my other stinky like running clothing and stuff like that. That's all sweaty and oily. But I wash it just like my normal clothing. Tech wash is preferable. If I don't have tech wash and it still needs to be clean, it doesn't mean I don't clean it. I clean it with you know, a free and clear detergent. I usually
let's pop this up. We actually have a slide for this, Aaron, and you know, kind of getting into this wash it and dry it and reactivate it, right? The true steps to do this, and there's a little more nuance than you saw in the video, but they aren't wrong, is you want to wash it, right? So just wash your outerwear together. Don't mix your base layers in there because they're full of skin oil. We don't want to add oil to the equation. So just wash your outerwear, machine wash. Warm is fine, cold is better, just because it uses less energy. And then you want to dry the garment, right? So you can hang dry it to remove the moisture, or about 20 minutes in a dryer will remove the moisture. And this third step is super important. After it's dry, you need 20 minutes of heat to basically rebuild the polymer towers, which are the DWR. They can get knocked down and knocked over time, and we want to rebuild them. And heat is the way to do that. So you need 20 minutes of heat. Now in the video, as she said, 40 minutes, and that's great, right? They just combining step 2 and 3 together. That's about 40 minutes in the dryer. So that works as well. So this is really important to do all 3 steps. The heat is important. You can't skip that step. Now, what do you wash it with, as Aaron was talking about, right? Best are the detergents that rinse away completely, leaving no scents, leaving no fabric softener, leaving no colorants in there. So the new product is great. The Granger's product, the Nick Wax, the McNett, any of those are designed to rinse away completely, leaving only the DWR exposed. But if you don't have that on hand, the others are fine too. You're not going to hurt your GORE-TEX. You're not going to strip your DWRs. You just may contaminate them with things that have additives. So next best would be something like a free and clear detergent, because that doesn't have a lot of additives. It still has optical brighteners in it, So that is an additive. So maybe double rinse it to try to rinse those away in that double rinse. And you don't have that, and you have something that has a scent in it, it's still better to wash it, maybe double rinse it, and then maybe next time when you have a milder detergent, use that. But you are not going to damage the GORE-TEX or the DWR by washing it in something that has scents or fabric softeners in it. Just do it, triple rinse, really, if you're really worried about that.
Yeah,
So that is kind of,
I didn't worry about that personally, but
yeah, no. So that's kind of the progression there. And so good, better, sort of good, better, best, or better, okay, better than not washing. I like that framing.
Yep.
And again, getting back to that top loading and how can you know it's okay? Again, at GORE, we've tested it. We have these continuous banks of these top loading washers. We actually call this the Kenmore test. And these are specially programmed that they can run for 1,000 hours straight. That's a lot of time. And we will test laminates before we bring these laminates to the world. Again, this is that test. Can you care for it? We will test laminates in these washers for 1,000 hours, and they need to come out and still pass our hydrostatic head test of 28,000 millimeters. So EPE, EPTFE, it doesn't matter. They still need to pass that after 1,000 hours of washing, right? So you are not going to hurt the laminate by washing it. And then the same thing with heat, right? Our seam taping machines apply the seam tape at around 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't think your dryer is getting that hot. So you're okay to put your garment in a dryer. So we've tested it and we know you can do it. So hopefully that helps. And that does, incidentally, I think, answer another person's question about the EPTFE and the EPE, the waterproof specs. They're both spec out to 28,000 millimeters after simulated aging like this. And they both spec out to the breathability specs that we set out for the end use performance.
I was talking to Ryder earlier, and we started talking about the numbers, and everybody wants to know the numbers. And I was like asking, like, how does it really size up? Is it as breathable? Is it as durable? Like, we want to know, like, more breathable. Like, if it's not as breathable, people are going to complain. And I don't know. First off, I'll back up and I'll say, like, those numbers, I don't really think they're that relevant to selling or making a jacket decision. They're hard in context, and those numbers, those tests are made at a certain humidity level, a certain temperature, and everybody runs differently. The temperatures are never the same on a mountain on an average day, and so those numbers are just numbers in a test. But Ryder was mentioning, okay, so when you get down to the nitty gritty of the membrane EPTFE through EPE, they're not testing as high, or what we're using is the membrane to membrane is not testing as high, but the athlete feedback and the feedback that we're having from customers, oftentimes people are like, it's even more breathable. Like or they're like, it works great. Like, nobody notices it. And the numbers are probably not even perceptive to human beings. Like, it's a perception on a number on a scale. But like, when you talk about human comfort and like the ability of what comfort looks like for a person, you're going to have a better difference in that with like changing your mid layer out, not wearing a synthetic and like throwing in a lighter weight mid layer than you're going to have like with the membrane difference. So yeah, I hope that answers it. The numbers are very, very on par with each other. They all follow within GORE-TEX's standards, but that's a human perception that like is a little bit different than what you're going to see in a test or a lab.
I just want to kind of summarize, and maybe Aaron, you can give us the executive summary on the way out here, that, we came here to talk about the Beta SL. We also are talking about care, but the Beta SL is now in the market. What is this really for you? What does this represent for ARC, and what is this a sneak peek into the future of?
Yeah, I mean, it's the new standard, I guess. Beta jackets, the Beta franchise, those are our most popular, best-selling, volume-driving jackets. And for us to transition them over to the EPE membrane package that we just spent a while talking about shows the trust that we have in it. Like, we would not be building our jackets out of something that we didn't trust in terms of, breathability, durability, longevity. Those are things that Arc'teryx has been known for, especially making just bomber durable jackets that last for a long time. But this fabric package, this has been years in the making. This has been a lot of collaboration between our two brands, other brands in the marketplace as well, to make the best possible and the most sustainable fabric package that we can right now. And so this shows you the trust behind it in the volume drivers. And as these next few seasons come out, you're going to see more and more of our jackets transition to EPE. Got some really cool ski jackets coming out this season, updates to the Sabre and Sentinel line that use EPE, some other cool jackets that I'll talk about in October when we do a full-on ski and snow clinic. But it's kind of showing you like where we're going as far as a map. And once we hit fall 2025, it's going to show up in GORE-TEX Pro, and you're going to have it in the whole Gore family lineup. So it will be completely PFAS or, forever chemicals free by 2025. And that's a goal for Gore, as well as a separate goal for Arc'teryx. So really exciting to see us get rid of the forever chemicals, embrace new technology, embrace recycled content, recycled materials, and, push towards innovation standard that's not just like, oh, we cut some weight off of a zipper pull. Like we're making 35% impact in carbon footprint. Like we're making big strides in this sustainability goal, which is personally, I think that's super rad.
It's exciting. It's an exciting time. It's a big shift right now. So here we go. And thank you everybody for being curious about this, right? And wanting to know about it. And we really do need your help conveying some of this messaging to customers around DWR, around wash and care. I mean, the real reason to wash and care, DWR is one. The real reason is it actually just makes your jacket last longer. And we want to extend that use phase of the jacket and the useful life of the garment. So thanks everybody for caring so much. Please convey that messages out to people. All right, well, Aaron, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much to our community. This is a special summer session, but starting on September 10th, we're going to be launching our fall season. We're just kind of putting the final touches on that, and we'll let you all know when that calendar is out. We have 14 different brands that we're working with this fall, including Aaron, and we're going to be talking with Aaron on the footwear, bringing in some footwear specialists, as well as diving into the ski line later on in the season. So we have a lot going on this fall. So looking forward to seeing y'all. And of course, the Darn Tough promotion, so you can all earn free socks, begins on September 10th as well. So all of that good stuff. And if you're new to the community, welcome. And for those of you I see on here that have been with our community forever, psyched to see you again. It's great to have you joining us from here. So thank you so much. Everybody have a great afternoon and a great evening, and we'll see you back here when we do. Take care.